Hello, we are back and doing some more weekly power rankings, getting them out actually the same day or at least within 24 hours of the time that the race started. So we're being efficient this week, and we're going to be well ahead of schedule for Canada for next week. That'll be nice. I figured I'd get right into it. Obviously, these are probably, in my opinion, three of the main drivers to talk about from this week. But, yeah, let's go. Okay, so obviously we are going to start at the bottom. I did that transition very awkwardly. We're going to start with a couple drivers that I am not ranking this week. Sergio Perez and Nico Hulkenberg. They were taken out of the race, in my opinion, by no fault of their own. I think even the race directors agreed, but I don't think they wanted to penalize Kevin Magnussen because they are going to do everything they can to try and avoid giving him a race ban, similar to what they did with Pierre Gasly. What was that, 1 year ago or 2 years ago? Because I remember he caused an incident in Mexico and at that point was 1 point away from a race ban. But they did everything to not give him a race ban, and I think the same thing happened here with Kevin Magnussen. Because, in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinion, that was his fault. He's against the wall before he's even made contact with Perez. It's a straight. Perez was driving straight. The roads do curve a little bit, but Perez is driving straight as he is obliged to. Kevin is not associated to have room there. He's got his front wing in on the rear wheel. No, you're not. You haven't earned the right to room there on a straight. Okay, and then we're going to start, of course, always with our drivers who are at the bottom. And this week, I've got quite a few who I think were pretty bad. I've got Daniel Ricciardo, Zhou Guanyu, Esteban Ocon, and Logan Sargent. So, I know that the ratings look pretty harsh for a few of these drivers. In the sense of Ricciardo and Sargent, that is because on merit, I think both of those cars deservedly had opportunities to be in the points this weekend, as Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon proved. After quality, putting all of my timings into consideration and then accounting for the drivers that DNF'd themselves, absolutely one of the Williams should have been in the points. So for Sargent to be nowhere near and to be driving a car that is deserving this week to be in the points, he's going to get penalized very harshly, according to my analytic system. He is looking very, very, very bad right now, getting ever so closer to the Nick DeVries midseason boot. Esteban Ocon, I think it kind of speaks for itself. He caused an accident that took himself out of the race, and his teammate had an excellent weekend getting points when even the car shouldn't have. But he just got vastly outperformed by a teammate and took himself out of a race where he could have had himself a decent result. Maybe not necessarily point scoring, even with the circumstances, but he could have at least had himself a not bad result. Zhou Guanyu just was looking very slow all weekend. I think a big part of that was the car, but also a big part of that was him too. He got overtaken twice during the race where you're not supposed to be able to get overtaken. He was slow. It wasn't very good. And yeah, I think I already went over Daniel Ricciardo at least a little bit, but to touch up on it just again, in case I didn't, Yuki proved that car deserved to be in the points. With Perez out of that battle, that car was probably the fifth best car of the weekend. Absolutely deserved to score points. Both drivers should have been there, and Ricciardo simply wasn't. He had a very good Q2, but he just wasn't able to get the right qualifying at the right time. And then he wasn't able to make the move on Alonso. To be fair, it is Monaco, and I can understand it's difficult to make those moves. But it isn't impossible. And he just wasn't able to get it done. Next grouping of drivers is actually very, very small. Actually, the next two groupings are very small. So these are my drivers who, in my opinion, did not have good weekends, but not the worst. Um, Shockingly, I'm surprised Kevin Magnussen actually made this group this weekend. But expectations were not high for the Haas, and I don't think I even had their car getting into Q2 this weekend after I did all of my analytics. I still think by like the actual ability of their car, they should be getting into points. But like after, it's really hard to tell. You like no math is perfect. But so when I came up with my calculations, I think they were one of those teams. Like I can't remember where I had them like ranked now because of course I've adjusted them after the race. Um, yeah, but expectations were not high for Magnussen, and at least during that qualifying, he met those expectations. But then he took himself out of the race, and he got at least a little bit of a penalization for that. But there isn't also really a teammate to compare him to, so I think that's part of the reason why he's maybe not lower this weekend, even though I consider him at fault for that accident. Lance Stroll had himself some opportunities. I don't think they were really gonna actually. Yeah. I think I had the Astons as maybe the sixth or seventh best car. I don't even really know anymore. I think I had them as the seventh best car, but still I was predicting them to maybe be around, basically right around that mark. But the one thing that really set him back was that accident that he got himself into, dropped himself back a couple places unnecessarily. He could have been not too much higher than this. You'll see where I have Alonso very shortly, but it's still something. It just dropped him back that ever little bit, the fact that he lost himself a couple places in the race. Next grouping, I put Alonso and Valtteri Bottas. I think Alonso basically did the job that was expected of him this weekend. I think based off of the projection of the cars and like the fact that they've been downtrending a little bit, this is probably a bit of a disappointing result for him, but I don't think Alonso did a bad job, and he actually did a fantastic job of his role of pushing back the field and while at the same time managing to not allow Ricardo to be able to make that overtake. I think Alonso did pretty great. Solid drive. And same kind of goes for Valtteri. I think the Saubers had an absolutely garbage car, and he did the most of it that he could with qualifying, but come race time, he made overtakes. Like, he took an extra stop and he climbed back and he clawed through a couple other drivers. He had himself a pretty good drive in all reality. It's kind of difficult because he was just in such a garbage car, but that was a pretty decent drive that he had. Next group of drivers who I think basically did almost as good as they could, or basically pretty good weekends. Russell, Norris, Sainz, Hamilton, Tsunoda, Gasly, Albon, and Verstappen. So obviously this is the lowest I've had Verstappen in all of my rankings. I think that car should have been competing for a podium. Even after all of my analytics, I did not consider them the best car this week. But at the same time, on paper, he should have still been competing for P3 or P4. And he had an awful qualifying, he messed it up, and then he also was not able to catch or pass George, who was definitely not in as great of a car. He should be absolutely beating George. So that kind of dropped him down a little bit. Alex Albon had himself a really good drive. I absolutely think that car should be in the, like, one of those cars, one of those Williams deserved to get a point, as proved at like post qualifying, and he managed to get two. So I think he had himself a fantastic drive. Pierre Gasly, that car should not have been in the points. That car should have barely gotten into Q2. He had himself a fantastic qualifying, and he managed to still finish with a point. Fantastic drive from Pierre Gasly. Yuki Tsunoda, I think he basically did pretty much as expected. I think the one thing that really kind of boosted him up a little bit higher, I would say, no, not even really. I was about to say is the fact of like how much he outperformed his teammate, but Albon extremely outperformed Sargent. Gasly extremely outperformed Ocon. I think it was just the fact that he was higher positionally and scoring more points. I got to give credit where credit's due and just put him that ever little bit higher. Lewis Hamilton had himself a very, very, very solid drive. I think he finished, P7 in the race, but I think he was probably the sixth best driver this weekend. That Mercedes car was probably still looking to be about the fourth best. And yeah, I think he qualified and finished P7. So kind of right around as expected. But Russell got the most out of that car, and that kind of shuffled him down just ever so slightly. You can see that I've got the rankings between like him, Sainz, and Norris very close together this week, it looks like. And that leads me to the next part of Carlos Sainz. Yes, yeah, he got a podium. He finished P3 in qualifying. But that car was shown to be this weekend to be competing for a win. And I don't think Carlos necessarily came close to that. Like, I think the entire time, it's tough to tell because every driver was like kind of going slower than they really wanted to. This is the hardest weekend in my opinion, probably. Like I mean I've got everything as math. I'm doing analytics. This isn't opinion pieces that I put together. But I think the one thing is like this car should have been competing for P2 and he only got P3 in both in qualifying and the race. And that kind of shuffled him down. And the higher expectations are, the lower it kind of shuffles you a little bit. Next, I got Lando Norris. I actually thought could have maybe done better. I think the only thing that really kind of hurt him was the fact that he got outperformed by Piastri this weekend. I think he still did better than expected for that car. I think they probably would have been competing for like P5, P6, and he managed to get P4 and everything. So he still had himself a fantastic performance. It's just it wasn't as good as Oscar's. And then George, this was a car like that was expected to be P7, P8. He managed to get P5 out of it, scored way more points than expected. And when you look at it, he got 10 points when in all reality he should have been maybe getting like 5. So he basically doubled up his points total of what was expected for this weekend. And then that obviously brings us to our top two. I don't think anyone will be surprised. I've got Leclerc and Piastri there. And yeah, I just heard myself full on pronounce Leclerc. And I think I got a comment about that last time. And it's like, yeah, no, sometimes I'll do Leclerc, sometimes I'll do Leclerc. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, Charles basically had himself a perfect weekend. Very, 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 like, if Ferrari was a top team with a top car, this is what you expect out of him. And kind of same goes for Piastri. Like, this is the kind of drive I expect out of someone who is contending for a championship, but not necessarily in the top car for that weekend. He had himself that kind of drive where, with a little bit more luck, if he had a better start off the line, Oscar could have easily won that race. He could have. He didn't, but he could have. And yeah, overall just a fantastic drive. There isn't really too much to say about these two. They were just definitely the top two drivers of the weekend. That brings me to my race weekend awards. Driver of the day, worst driver of the day, best recovery, driver that over-delivered, under-delivered. So my driver of the day goes to Charles Leclerc, obviously the home driver. It's kind of hard to deny he was the best driver all weekend, like without a doubt. Worst driver of the day, I'm going to give to Esteban Ocon. At least with the Magnussen incident, I can give him the benefit of the doubt of they were both in a straight, kind of going along each other. But that road does curve a little bit. It's very, very awkward going up there. I can see the argument for both sides. As much as I think that is Magnussen's fault, I can see and understand the argument. Esteban Ocon has no business making that dive where he did. No business. So he took himself out of that race. Yeah. Worst driver of the day, in my opinion. Best recovery drive compared to the previous week has to go to Pierre Gasly. I don't think he was very good at Imola, and I think he was excellent at Monaco. Had himself a very, very good recovery weekend. The driver that over-delivered, Alex Albon. Like I mentioned, I do think after qualifying that that car did deserve to score a point, and he managed to actually get 2 out of it, so he did technically over-deliver. And once we go to my pre-weekend predictions, especially looking at those numbers, he definitely major over-delivered. And then, as much as I'm not giving Sergio Perez a rating this week, he's probably considering himself lucky to have been taken out of that race, because if he actually managed to finish it, I don't expect he would have moved up to too much, and he probably would be maybe the worst driver of the day. So the fact that he didn't manage to get out of Q1, he is the major driver that under-delivered on a car that was expected to be top 4. Yeah. Then we take a look at our pre-weekend predictions and make comparisons, of course, like we always do. So my pre-weekend predictions, I put the Red Bulls on the front row. I don't think anyone would be shocked by that, given Red Bull's Monaco history. Then I had a bit of a checkerboard of the Ferraris and McLarens. I basically pretty much had them in that right order, just with Piastri and Norris swapped around. I got them wrong there. Russell and Hamilton, I don't think anyone would be too shocked by that. Then I had Alonso, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, Ricciardo. So, like, I kind of had the Aston Martins, the RB team, and Hulkenberg there. And then, like, yeah, Ocon, Magnussen, Gasly. Well, they're basically anyone in the bottom half. It's always kind of a bit of a jumbled mess anyways right now. The top 4 teams are pretty predictable. After that, it's kind of a little bit of a unpredictable right now, outside of the fact that lately it's Tsunoda's been there. It's one of Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Alonso, Ricciardo. It's always one of those 4 end up getting to those spots lately. Of course, when it came to the actual qualifying, there was chaos. I wasn't right in very many of my predictions. I got Norris right, I got Magnussen right, and even then they got disqualified. So actually, I didn't really factor that for that, but I will change that up when I do my mid-season rankings. Yeah. But basically, yeah, those are the only 2 that I got right as far as qualifying positions go. Not very good. Not a very good one. I've actually changed up completely my prediction system for the next race, so I'll have to analyze that, of course, and I think there will be at least a little bit more volatility, which I really like the idea of that, because I'm tired of predicting Verstappen, Perez, checkerboard of Ferrari, McLaren, Russell, Hamilton, Alonso, Hulkenberg. I feel like I'm getting very repetitive, so I had to find a way to change my math to allow for a little bit more volatility. Then when it came time for my pre-weekend race predictions, obviously, as I always do, I've taken out the drivers that DNF'd because math doesn't really account for that, and I want to use math, and I don't want to just make, I think this guy will crash themselves out. That's not me. I'm not going to do that. So I just took these guys out of my pre-weekend race predictions of like Ocon, Perez, and the Haas's. I just took them out. And then we look at the actual comparisons. Again, I didn't have a lot right. I did not have a lot right at all. The only driver I had in the correct position was Lewis Hamilton. A couple other drivers I had off by only like 1 spot, but a few people that I was very much off about. Basically just Albon, Verstappen. Those were the big jumpers. Albon did way better than expected, and Verstappen did much worse. Yeah, it's probably going to be his worst weekend of the season. But yeah, it's just one of those tracks you can't really overtake at, so I don't expect that to continue for Max. I think if he had open air, he probably would have climbed through it a little bit. He probably would have gotten himself up to like P3. And then as far as my actual ratings go, my predictions ratings go, this wasn't actually my worst result, surprisingly. I did worse at Miami, but this was still a pretty bad one, in my opinion. I don't know how my very first one, where my formulas were probably the least complete, was actually my best result at Australia from doing these. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. Let me know your opinions. Where am I right? Where am I way wrong? Ooh, I've got an idea. I forgot I was going to post and include that in here. Shoot, I forgot about that completely. Well, I'll include that for the next time I do one of these videos because I don't really have a way to cut and edit it in. So I'll just do that next time around. So thank you very much for joining, and I'll see you on my next video. And, oh, actually, before I forget, as always, tune in on the TikTok or Twitch where we do live streams of video games such as F1 Manager. We're probably going to be getting into some league racing on the F1 games soon. And I also like to just play games on like TikTok where I'm just more or less chilling, like RPGs, like playing Fallout. So yeah, thank you very much. I hope you have a great night.